Will do. And it is indeed 1 o'clock Central Time. And welcome to another session in the 11th annual Transform the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. It is presented by Northeastern State University. And we have sessions all this week and through the end of next week on Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day. Yes, I'm Bob Hales, and I have the distinct honor to be your moderator. As a reminder, all of our sessions are closed caption. To view the captions, just click on the closed caption icon on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. And we have Michelle and her magic fingers doing the captioning for us. Today's session, as you can see, is discussion on the rocks and a fresh twist of alternatives. We have with us Lori Berry, who's an instructional designer, and both for the Masters in Health and Wellness Management degree program and the competency-based UW Flexible Option at the University of Wisconsin Extended Campus. And we have Kristen Gowal, who is a senior instructional designer for the Applied Computing program, also University of Wisconsin Extended Campus. So let me turn it over to Lori and Kristen.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. That was a great introduction. Thank you. Again, welcome to our session, Discussion on the Rocks. I add a fresh twist of alternatives. And as you were coming in, we were just having a quick poll to find out where in the U.S. people are joining us from. And it looks like, Kristen, I'm not sure if you're sharing the results. We have quite a number of people joining us today from the Midwest and from the West. So, and a few from the Northeast and the South. So thank you. Welcome to our session. And again, we're going to have polling throughout, so we just want to get everyone acclimated with the polling tools so we can make sure that you're able to participate along with us today. And our next question will come. We'll let you in a few moments. We'll let you know when we're ready. So as Bob mentioned, excuse me here, that I am an instructional designer with the University of Wisconsin Extended Campus.
And I am also an instructional designer here at UW Extended Campus, and we are joining you from Madison, Wisconsin. And thanks everybody in the chat for sharing your geographical details with us. We hope to have a good time today.
Yeah, thank you. And as mentioned, we both work to develop fully online course content. And just a quick note, if you have any questions as we're going out throughout our presentation, please type those over in the chat and we'll try to get to those. Apologies if we don't get to them right away, but we will definitely get to them at the end. Another quick poll question is we want to know who you are. What is your role? So in the polling tool, please answer to let us know what your role is. Poll results are coming in. Looks like we have quite a variety of people joining us today. For those, as I'm quickly noticing that are typing in or selecting the other in the chat, could you just let us know what your role is? And okay, if we want to share. Looks like we have a great mix of faculty and instructional designers. So again, welcome to our session. And thanks for sharing for all of you that are coming to our session today. Just a quick overview of our session. And this is, we're going to share some pain points that you might be feeling in online discussions. And we're going to share 5 ways of which you can twist up those discussions. And then again, we're going to have time at the end for question and answer. And this is a very applied session, and your time will be well spent if you want to learn at least one technique on how to do your discussions in a different way. And we know that some of our slides are very text heavy, so no need to read through all the details of the slides. We'll provide the overviews and highlights of what we want to show with you. Also, no need to take extensive notes as we go along. We want you to be able to participate and pay attention with us. So we're going to provide some helpful handouts of the material at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Online discussions, as we know, are often used as a stand-in for those face-to-face conversations that we want to have from those face-to-face classrooms. But we know that if they are overused, they can become tedious to both students and faculty. Faculty, we know that you can begin to feel the pain of having to read through that lengthy list of threads to ensure that the discussion is on topic, provide student feedback, and to grade through all those posts. And students, they can tire of the monotony that can come with the repeated use of those online discussions. Let's take a moment and think about an online course that has discussions, perhaps weekly discussions. Now, this might be your own course if you're a faculty, or one that you've helped to design if you're an instructional designer, or one that you've been involved in as an administrator or a student. Let's think about the types of posts that students might have and how they might be feeling with the amount of discussions. Kristen and I would like to show an example of how a student might be feeling. We're going to voice 2 characters to illustrate some pain points that students might have. Imagine, if you will, that we are in a cafe and joining in on a conversation between an online student and her friend.
This is Kristen. I'll be voicing the student on the left named Isidore.
And this is Lori, and I'll be providing the voice of her friend Felicity, shown on your right.
Anyway, this is a student talking. I don't know if I can do it again. My nerves are frayed because I can't sleep from the nightmares.
And the nightmares, they're always the same?
Pretty much. I feel all alone, except for an army of zombies that come marching towards me saying, read, write, post. Read, write, post, over and over again. I think they might be the other students in the class, but I'm not sure because I don't really know them. Our discussions aren't really discussions because everyone posts the same answer to the questions. It's awful. See, just talking about it makes me tense.
Oh, Isidore, I can't believe you made it through the semester like this. How will you do it again? Can you?
I have to, if I want a degree, I guess. Maybe I need to find a campus-based program.
It doesn't have to be like this. Hold on. Let me make a call to my friends Kristen and Lori. They work in online course design, and they might be able to help rescue you and other students from feeling that read, write, post pattern that you are so painfully describing.
Okay, that's the end of our skit. Does that sound familiar to anybody, either as a student or faculty, kind of those pain points? Well, here we are, and we're putting some twists into your discussions. That's kind of the theme for our presentation. So today we are going to talk about one option to help, and that's varying your discussion format once in a while. So that's what we're calling putting a twist on traditional discussions, just to add a little zest.
But wait, Kristen, you don't want to add too much zest. Well, because that can get very overpowering.
Lori, I'm glad you mentioned that. Our goal isn't to add a twist to everything. That's not what we're recommending. So just to try maybe one of these strategies next time you run your course. So we're going to show you 5 twists to traditional discussions that instructors that we have worked with have tried in their own courses that positively affected student engagement while demonstrating critical thinking. And just a quick note on how we decided on the examples when we looked at for evidence of engagement and critical thinking in student work. We talked to the instructors and got their perspective, and us as instructional designers, as we've seen hundreds of discussions, and we thought these were novel and worth sharing with you today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And we're going to move on to our first twist. So we'll start here with a traditional question, and then we'll apply the twist to it. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Go ahead and read through this question. So we're asking students to think of a place in their own life and explain with examples. That's interesting already, but let's see what twist this instructor added to this glass of lovely, sparkling, traditional question. Hey, the twist that she added was posting images of the examples. So students, they're still going to explain their thought process, but they're going to add an image to add a more personal touch or view into their world. And that works really well for this activity since they're going to find an example. So we also call this a field trip. So I started in 2008 doing instructional design, and I didn't see this one pop up more until a few years ago because everybody has a camera in their pocket. So there's less barriers to doing this kind of activity. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our twist to our traditional question. Let's take a look at the question with the twist. And we put the changes in bold and in orange just to see how easy it is to try one of these. So we're just asking students to go instead of thinking about a retail environment. We're asking them to add pictures. And in this case, it was optional, but students still participated. Pretty much everybody uploads a picture in this one. So let's take a look at a student example. So it was really hard to choose. There are so many great examples. This is just one picture of like 10 of the students' post. So you have the explanation of the layout of the end cap here, how the marketing strategies are used, and we see it in action. One time I asked a lot of faculty how connected they feel to their students. They said, well, the most connected I feel is the ones that upload a profile picture. So when you're including the opportunity for them to show pieces of their world, that's extending that beyond the profile picture. So, and one thing, we talked about showing evidence of engagement. In this one, students will comment unsolicited in the post how engaging it is. So I have one quote from a student. I had fun doing this assignment and field trip. It really opened my eyes to how stores try and market their products to us while using our minds, eyes, ears, and noses. And we don't see that a lot. Students just commenting right there in the activity about how much they enjoyed it and how it facilitated their learning. So before we see the instructor perspective, I'm going to launch a quick poll. We want to see who from our audience has used this before. Right, the results are coming in. Unfortunately, we can't all see live results, I don't think. Okay. All right, let's see what happened. Yeah, okay, so we've got some people learning something new. Some people have tried this before, so I was glad to see that we're already twisting it up. So let's look at the instructor perspective. This is Erin Ratellis, our instructor, and take a quick look at her perspective there. Just to summarize, she likes that it's just something different, that it uses technology, that it's visual, it's through their personal lens. And like I said, it's another way to connect their students, asking to see their world. So with all of our twists, we're going to give you any kind of pitfalls or tips that we got from this instructor, the instructor that tried it. And for this one, it really wasn't difficult. There weren't a lot of downsides. She said some students might have trouble uploading images. She had 2 of all the time she ever tried this. So she provided a couple workarounds for them. And she reminds them about privacy or permission if this course has to do a lot with the workplace. So if they're ever taking pictures there, to make sure they have permission. So that was our first twist. Lori is going to serve up the next one.
Thanks, Kristen. That was a rather simple but yet effective way to add a twist to some of those traditional discussions. Let's take a look at our next discussion question. And again, I'm going to pause a few moments for you to give it a quick read through. And this discussion was being used for an asynchronous self-paced course in which there is no direct student-to-student interaction. And during the course development process, I knew how important it was to the faculty to have students to gain information from others in order to broaden their own understanding and perspectives. And with that, I pitched the idea of using an external discussion and reflection twist. And our faculty was really quite intrigued by the idea of making students discuss with someone in person and was really excited to give it a try. So we'll go ahead, add in our twist here, and let's take a look at the question now. Again, the changes are in bold and orange, and you might be looking and saying, well, it doesn't look much different than the original, and you're right. However, the twist is now that the student is to have a real-time synchronous discussion. And this twist adds an extra element because now the student needs to know the material well enough to hold a real-time 30-minute conversation. Let's take a look at a sample of a student post. And in addition to just having that external discussion, the student is to summarize their discussion that they've had and to also reflect on it. And in this example also, it enables the student to practice the art of persuasion in order for both parties to come to the same decision about their chosen drug. And in this case, the two parties were discussing marijuana, whether or not to legalize it. And again, a little bit of persuasion perhaps by the student themselves, but to come to the agreement to legalize their chosen drug of marijuana. So again, before we move forward to the faculty's perspective, let's take a quick poll and find out, has anyone in our audience tried this type of twist before? Results are coming in. I see so far it's a blend of yeses and nos. That's great to see. And we'll share our results over it. It looks like the majority have not, but there are a few that have. That's great. Great to see that some of you have tried these twists. And for those that you have not yet, no worries. These are ideas for you to have in your back pocket and for you to take with you for the next go round. So let's see what our faculty had to say. And our instructor, Rachel, she said that she likes using this twist because students are forced or asked to bring the topic into their personal lives. And in addition, the student engagement is improved because now they're having an in-the-moment discussion, which, as we know, can be really difficult to achieve in the asynchronous classroom. And just as we shared before, she had a few tips in order to better the discussion. And she said the most common feedback that she had heard was that students are having a hard time finding someone to talk to. So that maybe we need to specify that a phone conversation or a Skype conversation is also acceptable. Now I'll turn it back to Kristen for our next discussion example.
Thanks, Lori, for sharing some ideas about that kind of course where students might not even be there at the same time. Like, you can still kind of use a discussion format. So let's take a look at our next traditional question. And for this one, I'm going to do something a little different. Go ahead and give it a read. Can you guess the twist that I'm going to talk about for this one? And I'll go ahead and put in the chat what you think. I'll give a little hint if I don't see anything. Okay, and in this twist, students are going to be asked to take a position on whether or not they agree if biometric screening data should affect insurance premiums. Anybody? Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the twist that we applied for this one. What we did for this one was we turned it into a debate. I'm guessing we might get a lot of yeses on this one on who's used it. So yeah, students just research their viewpoint and argue their side and write a reflection whether they agree or not. So let's take a look at the question transform. Let's go ahead and add our twist. By the way, we made all of these twists ourselves, so that's a beautiful orange peel. It smelled wonderful. So we just added, again in the orange and bold, debate the following issue, take a position, and reply to a peer whose position is contrary to your own. So depending on the question or the class, students could choose a position or be assigned one. You can get more sides of an issue this way, and students can still determine what they really think of in the end. And before we look at an example of student work, we're just going to take a sidebar to etiquette. We got asked how to keep students debating respectfully after giving this presentation once, and so now we're including the recommendation to add a debate etiquette statement in there. So that's pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at some student work. And by no means do we mentioned some of our slides were text heavy. This is what we meant. We just wanted to show that the breadth and depth of the responses that we're getting. So the student is already starting their argument. They're saying, my foot is on the fence. So we go to the next slide. And you can see it's very conversational, it's back and forth, and it can be harder to get that feeling on a discussion board when people are participating throughout the week. But this naturally lends itself to feeling more conversational. And to find somebody who is debating the side that you aren't, it won't be as hard to come up with a response for them. So before we see the instructor perspective, let's see, I'm curious to see who has tried the debate twist. Oh, yes and no are grappling for which one's going to win. Yeah, so it seems like a lot of people have tried this. About 69% of respondents. I'm going to go ahead and share the results here. Jumped up to 70. So we have a lot of experience here with debate. So let's go ahead and take a look at the instructor perspective on this one. We've got 2 instructors who tried this in their courses that we interviewed, and Chris here, I like what she says about higher level analysis. It's that is required when students have to respond and defend their position. That's like a different level there. And the engagement, this is another one, just like the images, she mentioned how much, students mentioned how much they enjoyed it. And our next instructor, Tom, he has a couple of different points. I'm sorry, Todd. He says making good arguments is motivating, and we talk about that a lot in online education, and this is inherently motivating. And students have less time to prepare responses in advance, so they're thinking more quickly on their feet. So those are a couple of instructor perspectives on that. So for tips on this, the biggest thing is timing, coming up with a schedule to get this running. That's probably the most important thing to think about when running this logistically. So we've heard from some instructors is this is supporting critical thinking, and we see evidence of student engagement. I've even seen some starting to use tools to do video discussions and debates, but we haven't included that quite yet. So that's putting a twist on traditional question using debates. I'm going to hand it over to Lori for our final 2 twists of the day.
All right, thanks, Kristen. And it looks like we've been able to add a few twists to help actively engage students in their content and to help make that learning stick. Let's take a look at our next discussion question that we have. And again, I'll pause a few moments here for you to give it a quick read through. And sometimes when I'm working with faculty to design their discussions, I like to pull in topics that aren't one-sided and might include multiple perspectives or viewpoints. And I know the topic of vaccinations definitely works for that. I know there have been several recent debates on this topic, and it also involves several different roles. So I'm going to again pause just like Kristen did. And if you have an idea of what type of twist might be applied, go ahead and type it over in the chat. And Kristen, if you could help me see if anybody is coming up with the type of twist that was applied to this one. Anything in the chat? Multiple perspectives? Nothing? Okay, well, we added the twist of role play. And again, many different sides can be taken about this topic. And this type of twist can help give students a lens to explore some of those more sensitive issues. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's really too difficult to conduct a role play activity in an online course, but with a little extra thought and some upfront design work, it can definitely be done. Let's take a look. Go ahead, add in our twist, and now let's take a look at the question with the twist applied to it. And in this example, again, it's role playing. And so in this case, we assigned students the roles of a parent of a child with a healthy immune system, college student living on campus, a doctor, community member, and a parent of an immunodeficient child. So again, we assign different roles to the students to help give that voice or that perspective. And all these roles were assigned based on the first letter of the student's last name. Doing this allowed the roles to be randomly assigned because we know if students were to choose their own side, they most likely would choose something they already know or agree with. And by randomly assigning their role, it pushes them out of their know and into a different viewpoint. It helps bring in a viewpoint that might not often get to be heard. And by doing so, this type of activity can really broaden their perspective. It can also be a really powerful tool for student learning and engagement. Let's take a deeper look and see how. So on this slide is a sample of a student discussion post, and the student was assigned the role of doctor and made an excellent case in the role of supporting vaccinations. The student brings in several research-based articles as evidence to support the doctor viewpoint. Evidence such as the resurgence of diseases in the last decade due to people avoiding vaccinations, and for making it known that, well, darn it all, that internet, it isn't always the best source of truth. And to me, the level of detail in this explanation clearly shows that the student put much time and effort into constructing this post. So just as we've done with the other ones, let's pause a moment and see, has anyone tried the role play twist? And maybe this is in the face-to-face classroom or in the online environment. So either or, if you've tried it in the face-to-face, we're gonna encourage you to see if maybe you can find a place where you can do it online. Results are coming in. And it looks like we have had some people try it in the role play, or excuse me, try the role play twist, and several people that have not. Again, these are ideas for you to share or to take back and try out when you have the opportunity to do so. So we're just giving you some ideas to try out. Let's take a look at what our instructor Rachel had to say. And she said, she thinks students seem to be more engaged in this discussion twist format, and it can almost create a transformative experience because students are now seeing the issue from a different perspective than their own. And it can also tap into the emotions and get students emotionally involved. And just as we did in the debate, sometimes the topics might be sensitive or slightly controversial. So we just want to be mindful and add in any add in any etiquette where needed so that we aren't going to be stepping on someone's toes or anything of the like. And again, some of these are very sensitive topics, and some of the feedback that we had gotten from Rachel, she had tried using this twist for an organ donation. She said she had to be more mindful of the twist herself. She said, and I just wanted to share some of the feedback we got from her. She said that when she forgot when reading the first student post and she read the opening sentence about organ donation, "My sister died in a car accident a week ago," she immediately went, "What? Really? how is a student still doing school? Is she okay? She had a small panic attack for her student, and then luckily had to remember that this was a role play discussion and that the student had made up the scenario. And wow, that must have been a very powerful and impressive post. So again, she wanted to make sure that the instructors, when they are using the role play, that students might be playing a role and they might be making up this information. However, maybe they're not, but just to be very sensitive when you go to actually grade it. So again, this tip was for other faculty to make sure that they're more aware of that. And for those of you that have indicated you have tried using the role play twist, we want to have you consider taking it to the next level and split the activity up into 2 parts, where part 1, students take on one role, and in the reply portion for part 2, they reply using a different role. So just trying to take that one step farther. Again, this type of twist can be very, very powerful and add that extra bit of student engagement and excitement into the course. Let's take a look at our final discussion example that we have for you today. And again, I'll pause a few moments for you to give it a read through. And as we've shared throughout our presentation, these discussion examples are already pretty good. Kristen and I are just helping to add a little extra bit of zest to an already good start. In this final example, we decided to try a twist that's a little bit different than the others, but still helps to break out of that traditional discussion type mold of the read, write, post pattern, like our example student Isidore in our introduction had struggled with. And in this type of twist, we tried something called the fishbowl discussion. For this twist, the class is divided in half. One half participates in the discussion and the other half observes. For the half that's participating in the discussion, their discussion looks and feels just like a regular online discussion. So we'll go ahead, add in our twist, but I'm going to pause on this slide for a moment because it's really a representation of what is going on in this twist. On this slide, we have a bowl with a few goldfish swimming around inside. Those are the ones representing the inside the fish bowl. Again, they're conversing and discussing about the topic just as they normally would. And then outside we have this cat that is so intently observing the fish going, having their conversation inside there. And so this is representing those that are outside the fish bowl. Let's take a look at the question now, and this time from the outside the fishbowl, because again, the inside looks just like a regular discussion question might. But on the outside, again, rather than passively participating, those students are reflecting on the ongoing discussion, again, like that cat with the fish. And they're part of the discussion assignment is then to write up a brief reflection paper based on their observations and state what they learned about the content and even themselves, what stood out or surprised them, and what they would like to explore in more depth. It's a rather interesting twist on a traditional discussion. Let's take a look at a sample of a student post, again from outside the fishbowl. And it's really interesting to see how the student looks inward at him or herself to see how he or she has changed as a result of observing others that are engaging in the conversation. Has anybody tried the fishbowl twist? Results are coming in. I'll share in just a moment. All right, thanks for sharing. And the majority has said no. 2 people have said yes. That's great. I'm glad to see that some people have already tried these. And this isn't new. Maybe this isn't new information for some of you, but for some of you, again, hopefully you can get some tips and ideas for what might be working for a different way to do something. So thanks for sharing. Let's take a look at the information that we had from our instructor. And she said that she really likes using this twist because it helps to break up that monotony that can come with that repeated use of the more traditional discussion questions. And she said with that, much learning takes place while observing others that are engaging in the conversation. And in this case, the students are also able to reflect on multiple perspectives instead of only selecting one or two to review. If we have the discussion set up to post and reply to two others, most likely students are probably only reviewing maybe 2, 3, 4 other posts before they reply. But in this case, they are observing other multiple perspectives and sort of broadening that viewpoint. So let's take a look at some tips that she wanted to share to ensure for success. And she said the most important was that this twist is best suited for larger class sizes, probably greater than 12. Because if the size is too small, students can be limited to the amount of deep discussions that are occurring. And another important takeaway that she wanted to share was that even though the grading process was a bit more work in order to grade the posts in the discussion and the posts outside the discussion, she felt that it was totally worth it. Now, that's a real success, a real win, in my opinion. On this slide is a summary of the 5 twists that we've shared with you: the posting images of examples, external discussion and reflection, debate, role play, and fishbowl. We hope you consider adding one to a traditional discussion question, and they can go a long way in making those discussions more enjoyable and meaningful. Hopefully you were able to come away with at least one idea that you'd like to try out, and we'd like to hear from you. We have a poll question. Which one, when you get the opportunity, when you get the chance, which one are you most willing to try out? And you can only vote for one, unfortunately, but please cast your vote and let us see which one of these would you like to try out when you have the opportunity, whether it's during a course revision or a brand new course that you're developing, or heck, even if you just want to try it during the semester as we go along here this spring semester. Results are coming in.
I'm going to leave this up a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah.
The same one wins every time, and this time I don't know if it's going to be the reigning champion. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds.
Right.
I think we have a new champion, Lori.
I think so. Kristen and I have done this presentation a couple of other times, and we'll share our results in just a moment. So we have some sort of data, if you can collect that as data, to share with others. And Kristen, I think we do have a new winner this time: external discussion and reflection. Fantastic. Typically, I'll share our results in the past. We usually have posting images as our number one that people want to try. So it's our number 2 winner, as we can see from the results up here. But that's great. Again, just you might take a little more design effort and more design thought, but definitely ways to twist up a traditional discussion, if you will. Now, I know that we've shared a lot of information with you this afternoon in a very short period of time. So what we would like to do is just pause for maybe 30 to 60 seconds for you to be able to digest some of that information. And on our slide are some self-reflection questions for you to kind of ponder throughout as, again, you're kind of digesting and reflecting on the information. And again, we'll pause a few moments and then we'll turn it over to the question and answers. So when you're done, please start typing your questions over in the chat, and then we'll turn it over to that in just a moment.
Here, a great question from Jessica Allison from Drury University. And that question is, you've presented a lot of instructor-led twists. Have you tried any twists giving students more control in the discussions and what form it takes. So Jessica, are you suggesting asking the students how they want to discuss something for them to define that? Because I don't have something that comes to my mind, but I would love to hear if somebody else has an example of that. Well, we're thinking about giving the students control in the discussions. I got a question about using a rubric when incorporating photos. So what do you consider? For that particular course, the photo itself wasn't assessed for composition, etc. The activity was more about explaining, showing the environment. So in that one, photos were optional because it was a really low stakes activity to build momentum and motivation. If the photo itself, the composition, what was in it, were to be something that was assessed, I could see that happening. But in that particular case, that was not part of the rubric. And we heard back from Jessica, who asked about students deciding what the twists are. And she is considering trying to adapt that to online. So that's something that I definitely a puzzle that I'm going to think about. I think that's great. And while we're waiting for any additional questions or reflections, I'm going to post a couple of resources. One is an abridged version of this PowerPoint presentation that has the information that we shared today. And another one is a PDF handout of what we're calling our recipe cards that has what the twist is and the tips and tricks.
Yeah, so Kristen is uploading those now into the chat area with some links to be able to share with your colleagues and, you know, take this information, share it as you will, and also please feel free to, if you've tried any of these, we'd love to hear about it. We'll post our contact information in just a moment, but if you have tried any of these in the future, please let us know how they go, or if you have any questions of how to use these once you get started and are ready to put those into your course, feel free to ask us. And again, we'll put up our, I'll just put up our contact information here.
I want to call everybody's attention to Jessica, who shared that she has students pick the discussion topics that they want to discuss. So that's a really great tip.
Right. Is that more so like you give, say, 5 or 6 discussion prompts and students reply to 1 or 2 of those prompts instead of replying to only the ones that are on the slide? So they're given a choice as to which ones that they want to respond to? Is that what that means?
I'm going to take it over to Bill, who teaches programming. He posts a program. Oops, I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, Bill, who teaches programming, he posts a problem and asks students to program a solution. And they have to do their answer before they can see other students' posts. And I've seen that in our programming classes here too. And I love that we're seeing that we're having collective problem solving on the discussion board. And we do that exact thing here too. Thanks for sharing that, Bill. Well, thanks everybody. We're going to continue to hang out here if anybody wants discussion, since we're here until 5-2.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us today. And we hope again that we have some information that you're interested in trying out. And again, if you do have happen to try one of them out, please let us know how it goes. And also, again, if you have questions for how to actually implement these or other information you might want to have, please, again, feel free to contact us. Again, thanks for joining our session this afternoon, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual conference.
Yeah, thanks.
We have a suggestion from Jessica, who teaches history. So if you're interested in doing analyzing primary sources, she's got an example there in the chat. Is that, okay, the students ask as the experts on the document for the primary source. Does that sounds pretty engaging and as a great use of the discussion forums. Does that go really well in general, the participation on the primary source? Oh, and Lori, Alan's asking to go back to the questions for the reflection slide.
Sure, just give me a moment here.
Yeah, thanks for all the thank yous. Thanks for participating and answering the poll questions. And if you're ever in Madison, we'll give you a tour.
I know, just to put a plug in, they have in the summer, I believe it's in August, we in one of our campuses hosts a distance teaching and learning conference that's usually held on beautiful Lake Monona at the Monona Terrace, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, and that's an annual conference. It's always in Madison. So if you ever find yourself at that conference, we often attend to that. So look us up if you happen to be there and want to connect with us. We'd love to chat more with you.
And please share if you try any of these. We always love to hear how it goes. These are just all things instructors are trying, and we've got 3 new ones that we're working on. So hopefully you'll see us around with a part 2 for some new. And some of them are from programming. I know Bill mentioned doing programming. So we like to hit different subject areas because it's sometimes hard to incorporate discussions depending on what you're teaching.
Okay, thanks again. I'm going to conclude our session. Thank you much, Krista, Lori, and for everybody joining us. And hopefully I see most of you in about 12 minutes, the top of the hour for the next session. Thanks.
Thank you.